Welcome to another edition of MoxieTalk, where we give you an intimate look into the courage, character, and defining moments of today's most inspiring individuals. I'm Kirt Jacobs, host of MoxieTalk, where previous guests have included leaders from the world of politics, business, culinary, sports, entertainment, art, law, community activism, and philanthropy. Today, our 477th guest in our series welcomes Nate Morris. He's chairman and CEO of Morris Industries, a privately held conglomerate headquartered in Lexington, Kentucky. It was founded in 2010, and Morris Industries leverages the power of business to solve some of America's biggest challenges. Before Morris Industries, Nate founded Rubicon, one of America's largest waste recycling companies, operating, get this, in 50 states and 20 countries. And he legally formed it in 2009 with a mere $10,000 line of credit. And Morris served as CEO for Rubicon for over 12 years. And under his leadership, Morris led a $2 billion transaction to bring Rubicon public on the New York Stock Exchange. And Rubicon was named one of the world's most innovative companies by Fast Company, an industry disruptor by Inc. magazine, and a great place to work 5 consecutive years, providing 100% free health care for all its employees. Not too shabby. Rubicon is only one, listen to this, only one of 9 Kentucky companies to become public in the 230-year history of the New York Stock Exchange. Not too shabby as well. Morris was also the first Kentuckian to be named to Fortune magazine's 40 Under 40 list and is a regional winner of Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year award. Wow, man. He is also the youngest inductee to the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame. And by age 21, Morris worked in the United States House and Senate, the United States Department of Labor, and, wait for it, drum roll, the White House. Morris also worked for the American Red Cross and the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. Nate is a 9th-generation Kentuckian, and Morris's family descends from Morgan County in the heart of Appalachia. A product of public schools, Morris was raised in a union household by a single mother. And through academic scholarships and working hard, Morris graduated from George Washington University, where he studied public policy at Princeton University and earned a business degree at Oxford University. Yeah, that one. He was elected Phi Beta Kappa and named a Fulbright Specialist Scholar. This guy, you never sleep, man. Morris holds an honorary doctorate of letters from the University of Pikeville. And Nate also founded and is a managing trustee of the Morris Foundation, whose mission is to provide all Kentuckians with access to the American dream. And Morris is the entrepreneur in residence at the University of Kentucky's Gatton College of Business and Economics and is the chairman of 2X Game Changers. Morris and his beautiful wife, Jane, reside at Commonwealth Farm in Lexington, Kentucky. And one could even say that Nate Morris is Kentucky's version of Elon Musk, and we are honored you took your valuable time to be with us here today, Nate. It's quite a pleasure and quite an honor for you to be with us.
Thank you, Kirt. I'm honored to be here, and it's great to catch up with you today.
Absolutely. So what drives you to do all the things you've done? What drives you to excel at a fairly rapid rate as a young individual, younger, I should say?
Well, Kirt, my drive really comes from my upbringing here in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I didn't have a choice. I've got so many people that have invested in me through the years, through my parents, my single mother who sacrificed everything to get me opportunity, to my granddad, my family members who have worked at the Ford plant here, and my coaches and teachers and ministers that have poured into me. I feel like I've been given so much, I had to do something to honor them with the work and impact that we can have.
Well, Nate, who do you credit most influential in your life? And it can be more than one, personal or professional.
That's got to be my mother. Mm-hmm. My mother is the most dynamic person I've ever met. She can light up a room.
Yep, she's a great lady, by the way. Miranda, we like you. Love you.
Yeah, and she's one of these people that is just so positive. Mm-hmm. And she has always been so encouraging that anything is possible for your life. Mm-hmm. And we've had our share of challenges as a family, and it was just the two of us. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we got help from my grandparents, but she did it on her own. And like so many working mothers, balancing career, balancing raising me, spending time with me, I just couldn't ask for a better mother.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I love that. What was the most defining moment of your life, Nate? And again, it could be more than one, personal or professional.
Sure. Well, we've all had moments that changed the trajectory of our life, but one that really comes to mind is when I was in high school, I was really dead set on using football as the catalyst to get education. Mm-hmm. And my family didn't have the means to afford the education that I wanted to go get and pursue. Mm-hmm. And I thought football would be a ticket.
Sure.
And I worked incredibly hard. You all remember two-a-days and some of the documentaries on football and spending year-round in the weight room. Mm-hmm. And I had a very tragic accident when I was in high school that I couldn't play football anymore. Mm. And that made me think, how do I make the most of this? Mm-hmm. And how do I still pursue that education and find a different avenue to make that happen? And I got very serious about school, really buckled down, had some amazing teachers at Eastern High School that helped me, and I really discovered a knack for speech and debate, for leadership, ran for senior class president.
That's great.
Went to Washington, D.C. as part of American Legion Boys Nation. I met then President Clinton in the Oval Office. And it just started seeming like things were falling into place, that I was on a new trajectory, that leadership would be something I wanted to pursue in my life. And I didn't know in what context yet. And I ended up winning an academic scholarship to go to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And so it changed my whole life. And I was very sad at the time.
Sure.
It's one of those things as a young person that you got to look at setbacks and challenges, and there's always a kernel of equal or greater opportunity in every setback and challenge.
It's funny you mentioned that, and again, this interview, obviously, Moxie talks about you very quickly. 16 years old, out with my buddies, underage drinking, shattered my ankle. Totally changed my life. I was headed down a pathway that I probably wouldn't be here now. I could have died that night, I didn't, but it totally it changed everything. My whole outlook made me be much more of an achiever, a doer, get things done, matter. So I believe these things happen. You call them kernels, but I think these nuggets or what have you. And two people could have the same similar experience and totally react differently to it.
That's right. Our challenges make or break us, and how we respond to them. And I learned this as an entrepreneur. It's not about what happens to you, it's how you respond.
Sure.
And I think that, that's something I think Kentuckians, it's bred into us.
Absolutely.
Is how we respond to challenges, because we've all been through our share of challenges here, and we're all fighting for opportunity. But
absolutely.
But figuring out how to make the most of what life throws at you is really the ticket.
Well, you've had a few triumphs, but I'm interested to hear your answer to this one. What do you consider to be your biggest professional triumph? And it could be personal as well, and it can be more than one if you like.
Well, certainly, as an entrepreneur, there's no bigger achievement than taking a company public on the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
And the New York Stock Exchange is symbolic of America, what America's about, our free market system, the American dream, that you can build something in this country, start from nothing, and go public and live the American dream. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that was the biggest as an entrepreneur. But that all started back for me as an 8th grader at Carithers Middle School. When I took part in the Junior Achievement Program, and they had the Stock Market Challenge. And so little did I know that our team, we won the Stock Market Challenge in 8th grade, that would be a prelude to things to come. And I think it's a real credit to obviously what we built and the team. We were one of 9 Kentucky companies to go public on the New York Stock Exchange in the 230-year history.
That's fascinating.
So it's
amazing.
But it's a real credit to Kentucky, our people here, and the opportunity I think we have if we think creatively and we have the leadership and the vision to allow that to happen for others.
So Nate, there's kind of a fine line, or arguably I like to say, between risk taker and thrill seeker. Some people will jump out of an airplane not thinking anything about it. Another person will be scared to death. You've taken a lot of risk for a fairly young individual. What do you consider to be your biggest risk you've ever taken, and has it paid off? Again, it can be more than one, personal and professional.
Well, I think one of the biggest risks I took was going into the waste business. you know, I grew up in a union household, and I've been around on the periphery of the waste business and the trucking industry. And I believe it's about one of the toughest businesses in the world. If you look at, I'm sure you've watched The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not always the nicest people that have been in the business. And taking on big corporations that are billions and billions of dollars of market cap, and having the disruptive spirit to figure out how do we challenge these guys, and how do we bring a new business model into an industry that hasn't changed, I would argue, since ancient Rome. You know, we've been picking up trash and burying it in the ground, burying our problems for thousands of years, and being able to challenge that system in the entrenched interests. And I think there's nothing more that gets rewarded in our market today than disruption.
Sure.
And when you're a disruptor, you're not always going to make friends and be the most popular person. But
good point.
But to bring change, sometimes you got to do it.
So Nate, I love this next question, you know, and I'm going to reference a point. I met you roughly 20-something years ago, and we kind of knew of each other. I was working in economic development at the time for the Louisville Metro government, and you reached out to me. We had met through various, you know, events we'd gone to, and you said, hey, I want to sit down with you, and I got an idea for something. And, you know, it's been a while. I'm pretty confident conceptually it was what became Rubicon. So with all that saying, what was the aha moment in your life journey where either that specifically or something else, you saw the pathway to being an entrepreneur?
Well, I think the conditions of when we began our journey. The conception of the idea started in 2008 after the Great Recession. And I was kind of looking around as a grad student trying to figure out, what am I going to do, you know, after school? And, you know, there wasn't a lot of opportunity that I saw. And obviously people were cutting back, and this was a really scary time.
Sure it was.
For Americans. And we saw our whole life turn upside down overnight in the financial system. And I saw that as an entrepreneur, you really get to make your own destiny. You get to make your own way, carve your own path, and blaze your own trail. And I said, look, I've got to find a way to take care of myself and to take care of my family. And I thought being an entrepreneur is the best way to do that. That, you know, being able to bet on the American system, that this is one of the greatest traditions in our country's history, is to start things and build things and allow people to have jobs as a result. So I think it was that moment in the financial crisis that I saw, I gotta do something here. I can't rely on the circumstances, and I got to go out and blaze my own trail.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. So that's a great dovetail into our next question. What is it like to be Nate Morris? And I asked this question in a way like, you know, when no one's looking, you know, we're both two men, so, you know, when you're shaving, or if you're laying in bed late at night and you're staring at the ceiling and the mind's racing, what's it like to be you?
Look, I'm like every Kentuckian. Most Kentuckians, I enjoy University of Kentucky athletics. I love watching,
alma mater.
Yeah, watching Kentucky football and Kentucky basketball. I know we're just getting into the basketball season. Very optimistic.
Sure.
About the team this year, and love to hunt and fish and spend time in the outdoors. You know, Kentucky's got a great place to get out in nature and see things. And of course, I love spending time with my wife, Jane.
Yeah,
and
great lady.
You know, she's a fellow entrepreneur, and we love talking about our respective journeys. And you know, we love to worship on Sundays and spend time as a family together.
Can you define leadership in one word in the great English lexicon, Nate, as I like to say? And it could be more than one word.
Sure.
It can be a phrase, if you like.
Well, Bob Russell, who was my pastor growing up, he used to say leadership is about influence. And that was his greatest way to distill that down. And I think that's right. I think that being a leader is being able to influence outcomes, being able to influence people around a selective goal and a selective vision. And obviously Bob was terrific at that.
Yeah, he was one of our first guests, first 30 guests, Yeah, influential is a great word. I love that word. I don't think anyone's ever mentioned that. A lot of times we get passion or follow through. What do you say if someone was to ask you, Nate, what is your why? You know, what motivates you? You know, we're all human. Like I always like to use this analogy, you know, Elton John wakes up in a hotel one morning, and he's groggy, and he all of a sudden realizes, now what city am I in? Where are we on the tour? And oh, I'm in such and such city, and I've got 40,000 people tonight coming to hear me sing, and I'm not, really up for it. But you got to find a way. So what I'm saying is, even though a lot of times we're doing what we love, there's good and bad days, is where I'm going with that. So what is your why? What motivates you?
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think there's been a greater time to be an entrepreneur than right now. This is the greatest time in the history of the world. We have all this information at our fingertips. Yeah. It's interesting. I was listening to Elon Musk answer a few questions, and someone said, "How did you learn about rockets?" And he said, "I watched YouTube. That's how I started."
Yeah.
And I think that this is the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive. And we're in the greatest country in the history of the world. And the opportunities are limitless. I mean, what an opportunity to live at this moment. And to have all these opportunities to literally go, do anything you want to do. And that's not something I want to waste.
And I don't want to get too far afield from the purposes of our format, but I've always said, spiritually it's fascinating that, we're either very inconsequential as a species or we're totally a miracle, because we haven't seemed to find any of us anywhere else. We keep looking, but we haven't found them, and they haven't found us. So I want to go into what I call the dessert portion of our Moxie Talk, and I'm kind of going to go down through memory lane.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about.
You're bringing out the pictures.
Yes, I am, and you've had a very active life. So I'm kind of going to do it in reverse. This is you as a young boy. What are you doing here?
So I'm playing basketball at J-Town Optimist.
Great.
And we went undefeated that year. I was 11 years old. I was in the 6th grade.
That's great.
And I love looking at my Nikes, my Tim Hardaways.
I love it.
I don't know if anybody's going to remember Tim Hardaway.
Who knows? You never know. Somebody will watch it and see it.
No, that was a great year.
And here we are, a few years older. What's this? Football, obviously.
This is high school football at Eastern.
Okay.
And this was my sophomore year, just before I unfortunately got hurt.
And then this is your grandfather and you?
This is my buddy, my granddad.
Yeah.
And this is us taken in the summer of 1992.
Wow.
We're at Graceland. My family, we're big Elvis people.
Yeah, same.
So I've been to Graceland now, I think 3 times.
Wow.
And my grandfather asked me one summer, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "I want to go to Graceland, and I want to."
That's great.
I want to see it. So he took me, and it was great to be with him there.
And I know he was a very big role model. Here he is. It looks
He
like
was.
giving a
So I'm really proud of this picture here. So this is my grandfather speaking.
And his name for the audience? Sorry.
Louis Sexton.
Okay.
And he was the former president of the United Auto Workers, Local 862, right here in Louisville.
Wow.
And I'm so proud. 19 of my family members, we all worked
That's great.
at the Louisville Assembly Plant. And this is him advocating to buy American products.
Okay.
And he taught that and impressed that in me at a very young age. And I think that's something I took with me as an entrepreneur, to help American workers and help American families.
That's great. And it's not all suits and ties. He likes to fish, folks.
Yeah, that was just recently, actually. I went fishing with my buddy Cecil Martin from Houchins Industries.
Okay.
And that was a good catch. I was pretty pleased with that.
Speaking of good catches, this is your better half. Can I say that? I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. That's my beautiful wife, Jane. And we've been married going on 13 years this New Year's Eve. So
that's great.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
There's a beautiful picture
Another
over
picture
here.
of her, yeah.
This is you on your wedding day. If I may ask, how did you meet? If you want to share.
We met on a blind date.
They do work,
Those things work,
Yeah.
and it was an immediate connection. We almost eloped.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I didn't think her parents would be
It's
very
not that
happy
kind of
about
show.
that.
I'm not going to ask you about that, so don't worry. And this is your lovely mother, Miranda. You're
This
up
is
at
my mother, Miranda Morris,
Yeah.
at the New York Stock Exchange.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I love this picture. I know you've got some backstory here. It's your
Yeah.
mother and a teacher?
So this is at Wheeler Elementary School, and this is my mother to the left of me, and my principal, Charlene Bush.
Okay.
And I've known her since I was in kindergarten, and I still talk to her very often, and I'm very proud. We've done a scholarship in her name for students to be able to go to college, and so she's one of those teachers and one of those administrators in your life that changed everything.
Okay. Here you are with your lovely mother again.
Yeah.
All dolled up. And here's one of our previous guests. Actually, he was our third guest, Christopher 2X and you, talking to some youth.
Yes, Chris and I go way back. We've known each other 20 years this year, and so proud to serve as chairman of 2X Game Changers, which is having a huge impact on West Louisville and doing incredible stuff. Another photo of us there in the office.
Quick story, he was in our first session. It was called Leadership Landscape TV 2005. There were 4 guests, and of all the guests, that was the one I thought that actually wouldn't have longevity because of the nature of his work. He was very visible. There's, he's a community outreach person, and he could have gotten hurt, and he didn't. And he's gone on to do some really remarkable things.
Chris is the kind of person that anything that he sets his mind to doing, he's going to accomplish it.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of the rare personalities and leaders that could accomplish the things that he has for Louisville and for Kentucky.
And to give you some more insight into him, since it's somewhat of a connection between the two of us, I asked him, I'm like, why don't you have a couple big guys with you when you go around? Because, some people don't always like what he was doing. And he said, if I do that, then I'm not approachable. And if it's my time, if my time's up, my time's up. I thought, man, now that's Moxie. That's some serious leadership, yeah. So you're not immune to being on stage and talking. This is Entrepreneur of the Year, I believe.
Yeah, I was very honored to receive that from Ernst & Young, and that was a fun night.
I can imagine.
Yeah, there it is.
And here you are with the Rainey Center, I believe.
Yeah, that was just recently. That was up in Washington, and they reached out to us, and fortunate enough to get an award from them, and it's a terrific organization, actually named for the first African-American member of Congress.
Okay.
And they gave us the award and learned all about the organization, and they're doing some amazing work for our country.
That's great. And then not a TED Talk, a 10 Talk.
Yeah. This was at the SOAR conference, and that was in Pulaski County.
Okay.
And this is with a gentleman, Colby Hall, who worked for me at Rubicon, and now he's running SOAR in Eastern Kentucky, and they're having a tremendous impact on our Commonwealth.
That's unbelievable. And then I love this. No, this is not Harry Potter, Hogwarts, but tell the story here. This is phenomenal. Nate, you never sit still. Go for it.
So this is, I'm doing the end of course ceremony at the business school of Oxford University. So I'm speaking to the graduates, and that was such an honor. And
I can imagine.
Oxford's been a big part of my life, obviously, and I'm really proud that we got to talk about Kentucky when we were at Oxford, and that was a really great moment.
And here you are, Concordia Summit, I believe.
Yes, and this was in New York at the Concordia Global Summit.
Okay.
And talking about Rubicon and all we were doing for the waste and recycling industry.
That's great. And much like your grandfather, your granddad Lewis, here you are at the podium now as a grown man.
Yeah, right in Somerset, back in Pulaski County, and the Chamber of Commerce. That was fantastic.
And I've known you quite a long time before this, but this was at Rotary. I came to your discussion a few years back. That was great.
It was so good to see you there.
Yeah, you
and
too.
I think we started talking about the show.
We did.
And
we talked before that, and then we started talking again.
Yeah.
So, and then there's Bill Gatton. Talk about him for a moment.
I tell you, what an amazing individual.
Yeah.
So Bill Gatton was such a role model for me. He was one of my early investors in my business.
That's great.
Obviously, he's the namesake for the Gatton College of Business. And
University of Kentucky.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go down what I call Governor's Row, Kentucky governors. Which governor is this? You're fairly young.
So this is Brereton Jones. This was taken when I was a rising high school senior.
That's great.
I was taken at Morehead State University, and I ended up winning Boys State to go to Boys Nation.
Okay.
And I was so proud of that. And Brereton Jones was such a gracious man. I mean, he's greatly missed.
Mm-hmm. And then this is another governor of Kentucky, Paul Patton.
Yeah, so Paul Patton and I, we've known each other since I was about 18. I met him just before I went to college.
Yeah.
And caught up with him the other night. We went to dinner and talked about UPike, everything that's going on in Pike County, and also what the university is doing, which, he's chancellor there now and doing some incredible work.
And he was Kentucky's first two-term governor, I believe.
That's right. That's right.
Constitutionally, they changed that. And then I know this governor.
Yeah, Governor Ernie Fletcher, terrific man, and really a gentleman who's done everything. I mean, he was a congressman, he's been a lay minister, governor, fighter pilot. He's done a lot.
Yeah. And then this is a state representative, I believe?
Yeah, that's Representative Richard White.
Okay.
And he represents, it's Somerset, Morgan, and Wolfe counties. He's in the 99th district for the State House in Kentucky. And interestingly enough, he holds the seat that my second great-grandfather held in the State House. So we had a chance to catch up the other day, and he's something else. He's fantastic, and he's the first Republican elected there in a very, very long time. So he's done some amazing work and was recognized by President Trump.
And speaking of President Trump, remember he mentioned influence on the leadership question? Who's this guy? I think most people might know.
Yeah, so President Trump, I mean, what a guy. I mean, he's, even before he was a politician, he was an influence of mine. My mother gave me Art of the Deal when I was a very young man.
Yep.
And I've read it several times, and of course, love The Apprentice.
Sure.
And just really thrilled to get a chance to know him.
So I'm a little older than you.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. So I was reading and learning about Donald Trump in the mid-1980s, and nobody knew who he was. He's like, why do you keep talking about this guy? He's just a fascinating individual.
He is.
I was like, I don't think he's just going to fade away. And real quick aside, the guy was so in debt that most people in his situation would have A, not come back from it or done something harmful to themselves. And he channeled all that into motivation and overcame it.
Oh yeah, I think he's going to go down as one of the most iconic leaders in the history of the world, not just the United States.
And here's his running mate, as they say.
That's
not
my buddy
anymore.
J.D. Vance,
Yeah.
and that was taken this past spring. So J.D. called me. He said, "You got to get up to this event. The president's coming."
Yeah.
And it was a great luncheon we spent together with President Trump, and I'm so proud of J.D. Being our next vice president.
And here's another one of influence.
Tulsi Gabbard, yeah. And that was at Liberty University this fall. And obviously, she's a very interesting choice.
Sure.
And I think she's going to shake some things up.
And here you are again, rubbing elbows with U.S.
Yeah,
Senator.
that was at the premiere of Reagan. So a buddy of mine said, let's go to this. And so I went down to Tennessee, and Senator Blackburn was there, and had a chance to catch up with her.
That's great. And I love this with the governor of Oklahoma.
Governor of Oklahoma, Governor Stitt. So he's doing some really amazing stuff. And I think he's creating one of the best business climates in America. And I think it's something that, we can really take a lot of clues, some things that are working there in Oklahoma, and how can we use some of those same concepts in Kentucky, for sure.
And this is a still shot of you promoting Rubicon and a little saying there. I love that.
Yeah, well, it's you can do a lot of things with a line of credit, some elbow grease, and make something happen.
I got you. And here's your other half
Yeah.
at the stock exchange.
I was so proud to take that picture.
Sure.
I don't think there's been anyone that sacrificed more than my wife Jane as we were building Rubicon, and she has been such an advocate for me. When you're at your lowest points and your highest points, you want to be with your wife, and she's been there every step of the way.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. It's the only way to do it. That's why the marriages last long when you do it that way. So I love this photo. Here you are, it looks like at the New York Stock Exchange with your team. You've just celebrated what?
Well, obviously the New York Stock Exchange is the beacon of our free market system. And that's every entrepreneur's dream. And what a special day to be surrounded by the team that had got us there, but also to kick off the market for the day.
Sure.
There's about 100 million people that watch that. And this is the beginning of how the market gets started, right? Pressing that button and ringing that bell. So
you guys look so excited, excuse me.
Oh, absolutely. And, starting here in Kentucky and then just thinking about standing on that podium and getting the market started, what a long way we've come.
Absolutely.
And the company came. And, it gives you so much hope to go to the New York Stock Exchange about what's possible.
And what did you say, one of 9 companies in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky?
In the 230-year history of the New York Stock Exchange, we're one of 9. And hopefully there's going to be more.
Sure, absolutely.
And hopefully we can get more entrepreneurs that opportunity.
And then that evolves us into Morris Industries. Here's the logo.
Yeah, this is
And the foundation, I believe.
obviously we started Morris in 2010, And I've been building that simultaneously, through the years, and really diversified into a lot of things from insurance, real estate, venture investments, as I talked about with Vivek. So really excited about what we're doing and what's ahead for Morris.
I love this photo with Jane and one of the folks over in Oxford. Tell
Yeah.
us about this one.
And again, it looks very Harry Potter, but Oxford's such a great place. You think about the folks that have come out of there, especially on Christian theology. C.S. Lewis, his writings. So many of them were done. J.R. Tolkien. These are some of the big minds. The last 100 years, and
Sure.
it's a great experience going over there.
I have a feeling this is going to become an iconic photo at some point in the future. I just love it. This is you in the headquarters, I think, at Rubicon at some point.
Yeah, and I love the backdrop of the flag.
Sure.
Because I think entrepreneurship is the cornerstone of our country. Small business creation, having an idea and turning it into something and being able to build something great from it.
Absolutely. And I love this. Your influence is international. Who are you here with?
Well, as I like to tell the people in the company and our investors, that there's garbage everywhere. It's a universal language. And we grew the business from starting here in Kentucky to 20 countries. And Japan was a big market for us. So that's me and the Prime Minister of Japan sitting down at the New York Stock Exchange talking about the company. And obviously he knew a lot about Kentucky. He loved our bourbon. So
Love it.
And obviously we talked about Toyota, which was great.
Sure. That's great. It's just amazing the breadth in the fairly short runway of your
Yeah.
life that the influence and scope and people you've impacted, and then the many that aren't even in all those pictures. So
Yeah, Kurt, we call that dumpster diplomacy. So
well, that's a bumper sticker
Yeah.
somewhere for somebody's car.
absolutely.
And here you are with Kentucky's very own Lance Burton.
Yeah, he's something else.
He is.
Talk about an iconic Kentuckian, and couldn't be a nicer person.
Oh, yeah.
And my mother's side of the family's from Adair County, and we're very proud of him from Adair
Yeah.
County that
He's
he's
something.
become so big.
I had an opportunity to talk with him for a bit, so he's in the guest library as well. I think a lot of people don't know who this lady is.
Kathy Lee,
Yeah.
and she's the sweetest lady. And I think my mother was more excited about that picture than anybody.
I can imagine.
big fan.
Here's Coach Stoops, I believe.
Coach Stoops, I know we had a challenging year this year,
Yeah.
but listen, I don't think he's the greatest coach we've had since Bear Bryant, and I think we're only getting started what we can do with Kentucky football. So I'm very
That's great.
optimistic.
And here you are, I believe it's Jim Boone on the floor of UK basketball.
So Jim Booth, yeah,
Booth,
Jim and I are both in the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame, and we were honored at half court at Rupp Arena. And so for a Kentucky boy, there was nothing bigger than taking the floor at Rupp Arena.
I love it. And here you are at the Reagan movie premiere.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's a great movie.
Yeah.
I love Ronald Reagan.
Sure.
My family, big supporters since the time I can remember, ever paid attention to politics. But getting to see that movie in the premiere, it was a fantastic event.
And I think a few people might know one of these individuals.
Yeah, that's a buddy of mine, Michael Thompson, and Dennis Quaid.
Yep.
And so love Dennis Quaid.
Sure.
And he's become a friend and someone I'm really proud to know, and really proud of what he did with the movie.
Oh yeah, and that's not an easy thing to take on, to play Reagan. It's a challenging role because he's so iconic and
Yeah.
he's so well known, around the world. So thank you for sharing those with us. Now, we always ask our guests to bring an object that kind of captures their essence, and you had mentioned an object, a Lincoln bust. Do you care to share your thoughts
Sure.
on that with the audience?
Well, a very dear friend of mine, Taylor Rankin, who tragically passed away about 10 years ago, had gifted me that bust. Taylor and I were like brothers, and we love talking about Abraham Lincoln. What an amazing story for this country, but I think an amazing story for Kentucky. And he gave me that bust. He said, I saw this and I thought of you. And so I have that bust in my office. I look at it every day.
That's great.
And it reminds me of what we can do here in Kentucky, what the opportunity we have, no matter where you start. And I don't think there's any more American story than Abe. And I think about Taylor a lot too, and what he would have wanted to accomplish in his life, and wanting to do something for him as well. He was a great business guy, and I think about him every day when I see it also.
I'm sorry, but I'm sure he's looking down right now.
He is, and he's one of these people that was just so magnetic, and you'd never forget him when you meet him.
Well, you've created the Morris Foundation, obviously Morris Industries, prior to that Rubicon Global. So this is a meaty question. It's going to be interesting to see how maybe you go about interpreting it or answering it. But what do you consider to be maybe one of your more positive contributions to humanity? Maybe it hasn't happened. Maybe there's more than one. Could be personal or professional.
Well, hopefully I've got some runway left to still get
do.
some things done. But I would say there's nothing greater that you can do for somebody, I think, than give them a job and give them an opportunity. And that's something that can change family trees.
Sure.
That's something that can change the trajectory of not just one person, but a whole family. And anytime you can create jobs for people, there's nothing that makes me smile. There's nothing that gets me more excited. I just had lunch with a former colleague of mine that I remember when he hired in, and he's been with the company now 9 years, and he just said, thank you so much. The health care you've given me, the job. He'd been promoted 3 times since he started with us. So those are the kind of things that you think about the impact, and giving somebody a job and the opportunity to make money and help their family. It's gets me very excited.
It's interesting you bringing this up because I've been doing a lot of research on how to, frankly, live longer. It's kind of what you do when you get to be middle-aged. But anyway, they say that one of the main things people want to have is a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a job does for most human beings. Regardless of the market system they grow up in, they have a purpose when they get up. They feel like they matter. They feel like they need to be accountable. And I think when that's stripped away, whether by choice or environmental or cultural, it just kind of erodes your individual worth. And that's just my take, not yours. But I think that's, I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
Look, we've all got to have a reason to get up in the morning. And if it's fighting for our families, it's fighting for the country, if it's fighting to do something nobody's done before. I mean, that's the American way, the American spirit.
Well, the way we left, I mean, we don't want to get into world history, but I mean, we're all a bunch of rebels. We left a country to form our own country, and so here we are.
Listen, America all started with disruption.
Yeah, good point.
Our founding fathers were the original disruptors, and that spirit's still alive today in a lot of the entrepreneurs that we see in our economy. But we can't lose that spirit that got this country started, and we can't lose that. We need to magnify that even more because challenges are only getting bigger.
What motivates you when you're running on empty? I mean, you're a fairly young guy by most standards with the amount of achievement you've had. But I mean, we're human. You get tired. It's kind of like what I talked about earlier. You have your good days and bad days. What keeps you pushing through when you've got a really big day for whatever reason, and maybe you're just not up to snuff or whatever? What keeps you motivated?
Again, I think about the people that gave me opportunity. That's fuel in the tank for me. And to be able to have a lasting impact and do something that maybe no one's ever done before, and do something that can change the lives of people. That gives me a lot of juice and gets me very excited. And to take a category like garbage and make it interesting. That's something it's not an easy sell. But those are the kind of problems that I like to solve, and going against the grain, standing up to the establishment of the industry and saying, we're going to do it this way, we're going to do it a different way. And we're going to try something new, because guess what? This way isn't working. Those are the things that really get me excited.
I love it. So here's another meaty question. And I asked you the question about if you could define leadership in one word. You mentioned influence or influential. So maybe or maybe not that dovetails into this bigger question. But could you describe in detail a particular scenario or instance where you utilized your own leadership philosophy? And give me more than one.
Well, I think as an entrepreneur, you've got to do things differently. You can't do them the way they've always been done. And a lot of the challenges we have today, I think, as a society, is that we just accept things as they are and not ask why. Why are we doing it this way? Does it make sense? I think we're now seeing that in government with things like DOGE. I think we're seeing that with the disruptors that come from various places in our country. But I ask the question, just because you've always done it this way, it doesn't mean it has to be that way. And I think that's what's gotten us into a lot of trouble as a country, too.
Yeah. Complacency is the root of certain evils, I guess.
Yeah,
That's what we tend to do as humans. We're habitual.
And we're at a very critical inflection point, I think, in our country's history. You know, we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of America. And I think it's time now to ask questions to say, do we have to do it that way? Do we have to, the things that we see that are not working, let's ask better questions and say, get back into that pioneering spirit of the country. Because we've got to have a new renaissance here in this country.
Absolutely.
To survive another 250 years, let alone to thrive and to be the best version of America we can be.
And we can learn from previous empires or countries. You know, you can't assume that it's just always going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, that it's always, there's fits and starts and ebbs and flows and different cultural tensions. So yeah, you can't just assume that we're going to be here forever. You got to make the adjustments.
We can't take anything for granted. Yeah. And I think that gets anybody in trouble. And every day is a new battle. My football coach used to say, no matter what quarter it is, the score's still 0-0. And you got to play like that.
Now, I love this question. We've asked all 476 guests before you, whether we're at red carpets, in a studio setting, on location at a music festival. What is the best piece of advice ever given to you, Nate? And again, it could be more than one, personal or professional.
I've had a lot of advice given through the years, and I've always wanted to ask for advice because I like to learn.
Sure.
Everybody's got a story, everybody's got experiences, and I think you can learn something from every person. But a gentleman by the name of Brad Kelly, who I believe is Kentucky's greatest entrepreneur, up there with Colonel Sanders, and maybe one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the history of our country. It's a Kentuckian who became an early investor of mine and really became a father figure to me. I think Brad's probably the smartest person I've ever met. I'd put him up against anybody on Wall Street, anybody in Silicon Valley.
That's great.
And I asked him, I said, Brad, what's your secret? And he says, you know, I compress cycles. And I said, well, what do you mean by compressing a cycle? And he said, you have to do things as an entrepreneur that take normally 5 years, 10 years, and you've got to be able to do them in a matter of months. If not a matter of weeks, maybe even a matter of days. So compressing cycles, doing things that normally take this amount of time and being able to do it in a very condensed fashion, that's what keeps you disruptive. That's what keeps you motivated and to push for that creativity that not a lot of people can find. And that, he shared that with me. That was his secret. And he always tells me, he said, you're out of time. You got to run like you're out of time on everything you do.
Well, I would argue, you know, I'm a little biased, you know, that's why I want to have you as a guest, but I mean, I think you've compressed things. You've achieved a great deal. And I know you didn't do it alone, but I mean, you're kind of the driving your own bus here. It's pretty remarkable what you've achieved at a pretty young age. So I think you've taken that to heart.
Well, you're very kind to say that, but when I sit with Brad, I feel like, you know, we're just getting started. We haven't done anything yet. And, you know, he's very, very humble, but he said, you know, you've got to be able to do things and give yourself less amount of time rather than more, and you're going to figure out a way to get it done.
So I like this next question. It's kind of a fun question. You know, most people don't get asked this question, but I believe every human has one or two. What's your biggest pet peeve, Nate? It can be more than one. It can be personal, professional. Doesn't have to be with other humans. Go for it.
Well, my biggest pet peeve is people overlooking the heartland in places like Kentucky. I think we prove that you can do just about anything from Kentucky. And we can take part in the disruptive economy that we see taking place in technology and innovation. And when people just talk about New York and California, Washington, D.C., we can't forget the middle of the country. The middle of the country is what makes America go.
Absolutely.
And I believe some of our best ideas are yet to be discovered that are going to come from right here, from where we sit and other places around us. And that to me is something that when you go out to the coast, and you have to go out there as an entrepreneur.
Oh, sure.
That's something that really gets me fired up. And I think that for far too long, we've been overlooked. Kentucky, we punch above our weight. Our people, we fight. We've got grit.
Yep.
And
Moxie, absolutely.
we have incredible opportunity. And I think with the right leadership, we can do just about anything we want to do here.
I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that. It's kind of different pet peeve. Most people, it's like, this or that at home, I didn't do this. It's something real minuscule, but I like the global, broad, 30,000 foot up look at it. Is there a difference today in your journey from when you first started? I mean, could a Nate Morris do what you've done starting today with the same amount of runway? Do you think certain things worked in your favor? Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book about outliers, which is basically certain people were at a certain place in a historical inflection point, and it all worked in their favor. Of course, they took advantage of it. They had the skills and the intelligence.
Well, certainly timing, happenstance, and luck, and all these factors play into anything you do. But I would bet on the people that were around our business, that invested in our business, the people that have encouraged me and others. With that kind of resource and that kind of opportunity, it's hard to really mess up. We were very fortunate. But I think that we found a category that nobody really wanted to talk about. Waste is not something that people typically get excited about, but I think it's something that's so essential. And what I learned from my grandfather is that the people that do the tasks that not a lot of people want to do, that's where the opportunity is. And we got to celebrate those people as well.
Well, you had mentioned when I met you, and I'd known you many years before this at the Rotary discussion a few years ago, I had asked you, about like, does the recycling go where it's supposed to, et cetera. And then you kind of said there's a lot of waste in waste, that we haven't done a good job. I think you even meant globally, not in America. Like our packaging hasn't really become an efficient model. It needs a lot of work. And I was curious your thoughts on that. Have we gotten better? Are we getting better? Is there a lot of work to do?
Well, we're producing more and more garbage every year as a country. And I think that's a sign of our success.
Right.
Of the economy's growing, but it's also, we've got to take a step back and say, what's the economic opportunity? And how do we curb this waste where we can generate more revenue as a way of repurposing that waste to find value where nobody else sees value? And I think that's something that got me excited as an entrepreneur, that someone that sees no value in something, how do you extract the value and see opportunity in something that people throw away?
Finding interest in trash. I love it. So this is an interesting question as well. If you were granted 2 weeks today, and you are more or less your own boss, so this is going to be and you have traveled all over the world quite a bit. But let's just say a magic fairy came up to you in your particular circumstances and said, look, put away the technology, money's no issue, 14 calendar days, 10 business days. Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you take with you? There's no wrong answer.
Oh.
2 weeks.
Well, of course, I'd spend it with my wife.
Okay, good answer.
And my wife is, like I mentioned earlier, we sacrifice so much. So our time is so precious together. And things that we do as a family, the sacrifices we both of us make to have impact. But I think I'd stay right here in Kentucky. We got Red River Gorge.
Yeah.
Getting back to nature and getting able to see Kentucky and its beauty. I mean, that to me, there's nothing better.
No, a lot of people don't realize just how expansive the resources are in our state, the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Well, I always tell people that wherever I fly, there's no better place than where I'm coming back to.
Yeah.
So I love being at home as much as I can.
Yeah, I lived in Southern California for about 5 years, and I was like, some of the people I met, I was like, if you just knew the difference, you'd really like where I grew up. Of course, I came back too. So anyway, if you could have dinner alone with anyone, living or deceased, who would it be and why? It's your dinner. It can be a buffet. It can be 20 people. It can be liquor, no liquor. It's whatever you want.
Well, I think it'd have to be Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay.
I think he really squeezed so much out of life, did so much, and had this incredible energy to really redefine American power and what America's capable of at a really important inflection point in the country's history. And he seems like someone that was so interesting. The books he read, the books he wrote, the people that he met, the time that he lived. And I think the vision that he had at that time for the country,
Oh, yeah.
focusing on peace and prosperity, And that's something I think we got to get back to.
He saw the opportunities in what America could be, not what it was, and that's what made him a huge influence, back to your word again.
I agree.
So what kind of dinner would it be? Liquor, no liquor, steak? What are we having?
You know, I love Taco Bell, Kurt.
I don't know if Teddy would be like, what is this thing?
That's one thing I didn't mention.
Yeah, go for it.
Is that Christopher 2X and I were together at the New York Stock Exchange. After we rang the bell, I said, Chris, let's go get some lunch. And we went down to Times Square and went to Taco Bell. And they just had brought back the Mexican pizza.
Okay.
So that was something I was very excited to get. And what a way to celebrate.
I love it. Ring the bell in America.
Make
Taco
a run for
Bell.
the border, yeah.
And what's his name? Giamatti, the actor. He won the Academy Award, and then he went to In-N-Out Burger when he was in Southern California.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Not as good as the Mexican pizza.
Hey, there you go. So if you could have written a letter to the younger, and we showed pictures of you, the younger Nate Morris, you know, when he was playing basketball, football, maybe before or after the injury, kind of a note to self, what would you have told him?
Say, look, trust the process. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and you're going to be tested in a lot of different ways. But again, it's how you get up, it's how you respond, and take in whatever moment that you're going through and make the most of it, learn from it, and don't get discouraged by it.
Amen, I love it. That's good stuff. So we've asked this question of all our guests. It's our signature question. It's not really profound, but a lot of people don't get asked it, and especially not on film. You know, God forbid, Nate, you've got a lot ahead of you. You've got some really beautiful, wonderful chapters behind you. How do you want to be remembered? You know, God forbid you walk out of the studio today and it all ends. How do you want to be remembered by family, friends, fellow humans you've impacted that you'll never meet? How do you want to be remembered?
It's a big question.
It is.
It's a really big question. Look, I want to transform Kentucky and its opportunities and the country's opportunities and leave a lasting impact for both. And to say, at this time in history, we did something that nobody thought was possible. And we made people remember that moment when everything changed for the better. And I think that's something that really gets me excited, that I think is totally doable.
Well, if you can't do it, I don't think anyone can. I'm humbled and honored you came on MoxieTalk.
Thank you so
Nate.
much. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Nate. It's been an honor for you to share your unique human journey with us on MoxieTalk. And if today's discussion has inspired you, we would love to hear from you. If you know someone who has Moxie and a story worth sharing, let's talk. Simply visit our website, MoxieTalk.com, or type in MoxieTalk with Kirt Jacobs. We're on all your social media platforms. Until next time, I'm Kirt Jacobs. Thanks for watching.